It's just not being charged.
If everybody's ready, let's go ahead and get started. We're just a few minutes after 9 o'clock. And at this moment in time, let me do my best to call the roll of the members. Mr. John Heaton.
Here.
Mr. Greg Fulfer.
Here.
Mr. Johnny Coe. Mayor Sam Cobb. Present. Commissioner Susan Crockett.
Present.
Commissioner Jason Shirley.
Present.
Mr. Jack Valpato. Okay, we do in fact have a quorum, and I'd like to go around the room just real quick for the guests that are in the audience. And Mr. Steve Barrett, we'll start with you, and want to welcome you to Hobbs and Lee County.
Thank you very much. My name is Steve Eric, Economic Development Corporation, Lee County.
Thank you.
Charlie Benton, City and Business Reporter, Hobbs News Sun.
Okay, Charlie.
I'm Chip Lowe. I'm the Finance Director for Lee County.
Thank you, Chip. Yes, sir.
I'm Nick Maxwell. I'm part of the public.
Okay. And Mr. Alan Hall, who is the attorney for the Eddy-Lea Energy Alliance, is also on the phone. And any other members of the public or attendees to this conference call?
Morning, we have two here, myself, John Walker, the Carlsbad Department of Development, and then I'll let Norbert introduce himself. Norbert, member of the public.
Morning, Norbert. Anyone else? Hearing no one else on attending this meeting by phone, we do have a quorum. At this moment in time, we'd like to consider the approval of the agenda.
I so move. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. If you would, we'll take the minutes in order. Consideration of the approval of minutes, January the 26th, 2015. Is there a motion to approve?
Move approval, Mr. Chairman.
And who made that motion, please?
Jack Valpato.
Thank you, Jack.
My second.
Second by Mr. John Heaton. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes of January the 26th, 2015 have passed. Consideration of the minutes, February 5th, 2016. Is there a motion to approve?
I so move.
We have a motion by Mr. John Heaton. Is there a second?
Second by Susan Crockett.
We have a second by Commissioner Crockett for the approval of the minutes, February 5th, 2016. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. At this time, I'd like to welcome Mr. Chip Lowe, the Lee County Finance Director, to deliver the finance report. Chip?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe you have in front of you two reports. One is the expenditure report for the 11 months ending May 31st, 2016. If you look down at the bottom, there's a detail of all the expenditures for the year. The ones highlighted in green are the ones since the previous meeting, which mainly consists of around $25,000 paid to Roddy Dickinson, Sloan Aiken, and Rob for legal services for Eddy-Lea. And I stand for any questions.
Those services were provided for the new articles of incorporation and MOUs. Is that what it was, Monty?
Yes.
Okay.
Sure seems high. Have y'all looked that bill over?
This is the first time I've seen it.
Yeah, I understand, but it sure seems, what are they charging it that way?
I think it's around 275, Johnny.
That's more than cheap, but
I know that we did a lot of iterations, Johnny. I know this actually, although they billed us in 2015, it encompassed most of the year of 2015. So there was a lot of back and forth, I know, back when Jim was
so this is
chair.
one bill?
Yes.
Okay.
And,
It's a year, I think it's over a year's worth of legal fees, right, John?
Yes, it's.
Okay.
There were about 6 or 7 months
Right.
That's
that
right.
were incorporated into the final bill that had
And
not
they
been
had-
filled out on the regular
And they had
basis.
failed to bill us on a routine basis for some reason or another. Alan could explain that, but, so this is a cumulative total for all the meetings that we had.
I don't remember that we had approved, if we had approved any other legal fees regarding to, we did a reorganization, and there also, Alan, does this cover some of the legal expenses associated with the option agreement as well?
Oh, yes.
It's almost all of that.
Okay,
Almost all of that.
okay.
And someone there questioned, or said that the law firm ought to bill you on a regular basis. I couldn't agree more. You simply dropped the ball on that. I thought someone else was doing it. It wasn't getting done. But we'll definitely bill you monthly.
Okay.
I apologize for, that
Alan, it'd be at least less painful to see it in small
Well,
amounts.
I hear you, I understand what you're saying. We just dropped the ball.
But we were meeting almost every 2 weeks for a period there.
Yeah, Chip has just given me his phone, which has the detail from the charges, which cover a number of conversations with various representatives of the organization, and so it's fully detailed, so.
Did we get a copy of that sent out to all the members? Or did we
Sure.
have that?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Chip can email that to all the members, so we'll have it.
That won't be a problem.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Move to approve.
We have a motion by Commissioner Colford to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Johnny Cope. Those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Chip, if you'd work, represent the preliminary budget for 2017.
We presented a budget back in February, and that was before we had received $25,000 worth of legal bills, which kind of changed their cash balance a little bit. So we went back in and reworked the budget a little bit to get it more into line. And right now, I believe the original budget, we had budgeted $68,000 in expenditures. We cut it down to $44,000, which of $25,000 of that would be contract legal, which is pretty much in line with what this year was. So I feel like this is probably a pretty good budget at this point, unless there's another large legal bill comes through that we don't know about at this point. That'll leave us a cash balance at the end of June 30th, 2017, of $16,273 roughly. So the cash balance that's in there is beginning to whittle down. We did receive a check yesterday afternoon on the tower lease for $5,000, which will help that a little bit. It's not reflected here as of this morning.
So do we anticipate spending $25,000 in legal fees?
I don't know if we do or not.
Yeah, I mean,
Johnny, to be-
what is
to be
there
honest.
to do other than this agreement?
Well, now we're working on, working our way through the State Board of Finance, which we hope and anticipate. And I know Alan has been talking to their counsel in review of the agreement to try to answer questions regarding our agreement. And at this point, I would say that's probably going to be the most significant issue that we'll be dealing with.
I understand putting the number in there, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a plug number. I think we can move it if we need to later on.
Yeah,
Now, that raises a question with me, Monty. I thought in order for the counties to approve the option agreement, the State Board of Finance had to previously approve that.
No,
So they've approved it subject to the deed.
no, it's never been presented to the State Board of Finance. we have all of our approvals in order with our members.
Okay. Then it goes to the state board.
Then it goes to the state board.
I was misunderstood the order of the approval.
No, it's got to be a complete package, which means approval by the members for the sale of the asset.
Okay.
We do anticipate, I'm not saying that it will in fact happen, but we do anticipate that we hope to make that presentation somewhere around July the 19th to the State Board of Finance.
And that's required because of the county's involvement?
That's correct.
Because I do not think the cities have that requirement.
Right. Okay?
It would be good to have pretty good representation there.
Yeah. So we'll try to be well prepared and most of the issues resolved before presentations made.
Okay.
Okay? Is there a motion to approve the preliminary budget for fiscal year 17?
So moved.
That by Mayor Cobb?
Didn't we do that already? Motion?
No, we approved the
Okay.
expenditures.
All right, second.
We have a second by Mr. John Heaton. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Want to discuss the fiscal agent, also the central depository for public records and meeting minutes. Have a recommendation to the body. Every year we've transferred the responsibilities between the respective economic development departments of the respective communities of Carlsbad and Lee County, Eddy County, Lee County. I would like to make the recommendation. Lee County currently serves as a fiscal agent for this organization, but I would also like to make the recommendation that the County of Lee be the central depository for all public records, and that the County of Lee be responsible for the maintenance, for the taking and the maintenance of the minutes. And it just seems to me that from a logistical standpoint, from the standpoint that there's a central place where the public can go, and that the members, in fact, can go for those documents, makes, at least in my mind, a great deal of sense. And we'd like to open that up for discussion, and if the discussion leads itself to a motion to approve that change, then I would like to
Mr. Chairman,
have a motion.
We have had a difficulty with this throughout the history of the Alliance. And when it switches back and forth, records, I mean, as an example, the cell tower records, it took us 2 or 3 years to figure out where it was and who had it and where it was. The taking of the minutes have basically been different from place to place, and consistency of how we do it and what's in the minutes and what's not in the minutes. And those reviews, and I really think that having a central depository for all of our records so that everybody knows where they are, who has them, how to gain access to them, and having consistent minute taking occur, I think would be a great advantage to this organization. Now, where it goes is, I guess, a question, but the reality is that the Lee County has volunteered to be our fiscal agent, and it seems to me that that's probably a consistent place to have the depository for all of these records. One of the questions I have is keeping the web page up to speed. I know our various public members and others have been concerned about the quality of the web page and the information that's on that web page, so that people that want to access this public organization are able to do so. So would that include the web page development as well in your recommendation? I mean, are you able to do that, the county?
I believe we can. We have a lady that maintains all of our web stuff, gets all our stuff posted and everything. And I think that, you know, if our commission is agreeable to it, then we can incorporate that in, and I don't think we'll have a problem.
Okay.
One question I have in defense of the county is that we historically, the minutes have been taken, as in today, Steve's taking minutes, and John Waters has taken minutes. You know, I think as long as the minute taking can be done without the county having to provide an individual to come to the meetings, I don't know. I don't want that to be an unnecessary burden on the county to have to provide someone to come, like when the meetings are in Carlsbad, that becomes an expense. So if we could have some methodology for the minutes, because we're going to approve the minutes.
Sure.
So I think if the minutes could be taken, when the meeting is in Carlsbad by someone that's part of the Carlsbad delegation, when the meeting's in Hobbs, it's taken by someone that's part of the Hobbs delegation for subsequent approval by the entity. Because I just don't, I don't think it's fair to make Lee County send an hourly employee, or a salaried employee for that matter, to various locations to take minutes as a trustee. So with that caveat, I would certainly be in favor of doing that.
The only thing about that from my perspective is that there are specific methodologies that counties and cities, that public entities use to transcribe minutes.
Right.
And how that's done. And I'm not sure what the limitations are or aren't about what goes in the minutes of a...
John, that shouldn't be that difficult to figure out. That shouldn't be that difficult to figure out. We've been doing it for 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Or we could...
and we approve them, and if the format isn't satisfactory, we can fix it. I mean, I recommend Sam's recommendation.
We can,
Mr. Chairman.
Let me catch Commissioner Fulfer right quick, and Commissioner Crockett, I'll come right to you.
we do have Monica that we appointed to be over all these different committees, and it's really worked well, her keeping up with it. But like you said, the minute deal, I really like Sam's idea, and they can lay out a format of how they want the minutes, and we just need to make sure that those get emailed right after the meeting to that person, which would be Monica in our Lee County. So then she takes care of all the committees, making sure the minutes are posted where they need to be and stuff. So she could probably handle that.
And as I say, the minutes are going to always be approved subsequent to the meeting, the previous meeting. So I don't think we're going to have a problem with it being appropriate for the public to be able to review. But that's the only concern I have.
Commissioner Crockett?
Our group here in Carlsbad, we just wanted to let it be known for the record that somebody doesn't have to physically drive to Eddy County or Lee County. They can take the minutes via phone, record them, have all the proper documentation for the minutes.
Yeah. Any of those agreed upon stipulations are fine. I just don't want the county to have the burden of having to, because she may have to be well involved in a very serious county issue that should take precedence over her taking minutes for Eddy-Lea. I mean, that, you know, Chip and or whomever, the county manager needs to have the ability to discern where the priorities are for the minute taking.
And that is an issue because a minute taker comes out of the clerk's office, and she
Right.
is very particular with her hourly person who's traveling, and so it would be good if we could depend on somebody from this organization to do
I
that.
think it's worked out fine for the last 5 years, and
Yeah.
John, I don't see a problem with it.
Yeah. So,
But I'm not hearing any disagreement regarding the central depository for all records.
right.
Mr.
Minutes.
Chairman, this is Jason at Carlsbad.
Yes.
I think the biggest thing is that we need to make sure it's consistent. I would feel more comfortable if the same person took the minutes, whether by phone or in person, but just to maintain that consistency, and then to ensure that the posting is consistent in one location, and the notifications are sent in a prompt way to every entity, so that the members of our public have adequate information and accurate and up-to-date information. I think that's our biggest concern here, and I know last time we had some confusion with that. We just need to make sure that it's consistent.
Well, if we're gonna get that particular, then I guess county needs to be paid by the Eddy-Lea for their
Doesn't have to be
services.
the county that takes the minutes. It can be someone from the organization, it just needs to be the same person.
Well, there's no one in this organization wants to do it.
Well,
Well, from the economic development, Mr. Chairman, in Carlsbad, the Department of Development, I mean, you know, that, and I know that the League EDC, at least prior administrations in the League EDC, that was part of our participation, part of the administrative duties. And then, if you remember, when we went to being a quasi-public entity, then that also included the posting and included the website. We own the domain. I mean, that's something that we have to work out if it all went over to Lee County. But you know, as far as taking minutes, the way we've been doing it, the agency that has the administration has been handling it within their respective staff. I don't know if Steve, I don't know what his position is on it, but you know, we're committed to Eddy-Lea, and we'll do whatever you guys want. The Carlsbad Department of Development is. We wanted to see this thing succeed. So if it requires our agency taking minutes when we have it, that's great. If you guys want to get your own person to handle both sides of it, that's fine too. But from our perspective, we're committed to Eddy-Lea, and we're going to do whatever you guys want us to do.
well, the reality is that I think in both cases, the minute or the conversation at the meeting is recorded. So that recording could be dispensed to whoever the minute taker is at the county, and they could.
Absolutely, and that's how we do it in the city of Carlsbad, with the committees. I don't know how, I know that Eddy County does the same thing. I don't know how the Lee County folks do, but we record it and then someone transcribes it.
Is that satisfactory to do it that way?
Absolutely, to me.
Mr. Chairman, one thing just from my old days in public work, I know that if that is the case, you need to make sure that there's a policy in place that anybody that speaks identifies their name before they speak, so that the staff member that's doing that is able to know who said what.
Right.
I would prefer if Steve had the person that we, the EDC has somebody taking it, and the EDC over there has somebody taking minutes.
Yep.
And
And
then
then-
just email it into Monica's office, and she will take care of posting it. I don't have no problem with the recording, other than it's gonna take that person time
Okay.
to sit there and do it, and I don't know, the clerk's office is gonna wanna charge for that. I mean, she don't.
Well, she operates on her own budget.
She put somebody on minutes of every committee, she would have to have 2 or 3 full-time people to do that.
Well, then it seems to me that maybe where we head with this is that it's, there's no problem with the central depository of public records residing with Lee County being the fiscal agent. And then it seems that what we're saying is that each respective entity, whether it be the EDC of Lee County or the CDC of Eddy County, wherever the meeting occurs, that's where the minutes are originated, and then transcribed and forwarded to Monica Russell.
I'll make that motion.
Does that kind of hit where?
Johnny
we
Cope
think
makes
they're-
that motion.
Okay, there's a motion by Johnny Cope. Is there a second?
Would you please include the webpage as well? The information, getting the information on the webpage? Wherever, if Carlsbad has the domain, just simply getting the information to them to transcribe onto the domain.
I don't understand your statement.
I want you to amend the motion to include the web page.
What are we gonna do with the webpage?
That's where the minutes will be posted for the
Oh,
public.
okay.
That's where everything gets posted.
I amended.
Yeah, okay.
All right. We have a motion by Johnny Cope that includes a web page for dissemination of minutes and agendas and things that pertain to the meetings and the activities of the Alliance. Is there a second?
My second.
Mr. John Heaton seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. At this moment in time, we have the election of officers. And first election will be chairman, point of information. Normally, the chairmanship changes each year. And that moves between Hobbs and Lee and Carlsbad and Eddy. This year, I've had the privilege to serve as chairman, representing Hobbs and Lee. And so at this moment in time, we'll seek nominations for chairman, which would need to represent Carlsbad and Eddy. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, Susan Crockett, I nominate John Heaton.
Okay, we have a motion for Mr. John Heaton to serve as chairman for 16-17. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Johnny Cope seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Consideration at this moment in time for vice chairman. The current vice chairman is Mr. John Heaton. Vice chairman will need to be represented by Hobbs and Lee County. Is there a nomination for vice chairman?
Nominate Mayor Sam Cobb.
We have a motion to nominate Mayor Sam Cobb. Is there a second?
A second.
There's a second by Mr. John Heaton, the first by Mr. Greg Fulfer. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Now consideration of secretary, which is currently being held by Mayor Sam Cobb and would need to be held by someone with Carlsbad and Eddy. Is there a nomination?
I nominate Ms. Crockett.
We have a motion for Ms. Susan Crockett. Is there a second?
Second.
A second by Mr. John Heaton. Any further discussion? I gave you your chance, Susan, and you're going to pass it by. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? For treasurer, current sitting treasurer is Commissioner Susan Crockett. This position will need to be held by someone with the Hobbs, Lee County membership. Is there a motion for treasurer?
Nominate Johnny Cope.
There's a motion for Mr. Johnny Cope. Is there a second?
I was just fixing.
We have a second by Mr. John Heaton. There being no further discussion. All those in favor? Yes. All those opposed? Thank you. Congratulations, Mr. Cope. At this,
Is that what it is?
we're going. Yes, it is. At this moment in time, it's standard practice that we'll pass the gavel to Mr. John Heaton as chairman of the Eddy-Lea Energy Alliance. John?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You've done an outstanding job. It's been a trying year, to say the least, many, many meetings, and thank you for all the work you put into it. So, with that, the next item on the agenda is to go into executive session based on section 1015-1 H8, for the discussion of the purchase, acquisition, or disposal of real property, the 1,000 acres jointly owned by Eddy-Lea Energy Alliance, and all of the items to discuss will pertain to the exceptions listed above, and no action will be taken in closed session. So I would entertain a motion to
Go into close.
so moved.
There's a motion by Johnny Cope and a second by Monty Newman.
Okay, is there any opposition to going into closed session? Hearing none, we will do so. Thank those of you that are here or have been here, and we will excuse you.
Will you be back open for 9 and 10 of the agenda?
Yes, we will be back in open session.
Did I grab a copy of the agenda?
Yeah, certainly.
Mr. Allen Hall will remain on the phone as counsel. the Eddy-Lea Energy Alliance.
How you doing, Nick?
I sent a release letter and brought it back.